All right, today we're going to talk about pairing birds, pairing exotic birds, putting two birds together or putting a flock together in the same cage. You got to be mindful because if you're new to this, then you don't know much about Quakers and green cheeks and parrotlets that are real mean ass birds. They are mean and ruthless to each other. So, story time. Knew a lady. The lady taught me. She had a pair of parrotlets. They'd been there for 3 years together. One gets out. She wasn't thinking. She knew better. She grabbed it, stuck it back in the cage. Later on that afternoon, that bird was dead. That other bird killed that little one. Why? They're territorial as hell. What she should have done, because of what it was put it in another cage and put it side by side. When you buy new birds or you get gifted new birds or whatever, or when you're just trying to put a pair together, you put them in two separate cages. And if you will, demonstration. Depending on the bird, we'll say macaws. This is 6 foot. Every few days, you go a little closer, and a little closer, and a little closer, and a little closer, and you just keep going and you listen to them. Because they'll start yearning for each other. And you'll hear it. You'll know the tones, and the calls will be different every other day. Sometimes it might take longer, but you'll know just by listening to them. So you just go closer and closer and closer until that point they're together in 2 different cages now. And then you have the cages close enough, and you can watch them. And when they get to a point to where wherever they're at, located on that cage, like say they're here, the other one's gonna be right across from it. When I start doing that, then you know it's okay to put them together. There's the first half of it. Second half of it, and this is the sucky part. If you lose a mate, like I did, I had Jim and what the hell's her name? I forget her name. Jim and the other one I had. They were 2 blue and gold macaws. And I paired them up, or no. He was a rainbow, and she was a blue and gold. And I did the little thing and paired them up, and it was fine. And they'd been together like 2 years. The female ended up dying. She was like 10, 12 years old. And when they're hand-reared, a lot of times they don't live really long. It's just depending on how the person that raised them. And I didn't realize it because normally she would come, and when I knocked, she would say something and let me know she was okay. And I hadn't really heard from her for a while. And he just acted normal and everything. And I just went to look, and I just something wasn't right. And I looked inside the box, and she was dead. And he wouldn't let me get to her. Man, it was hell fighting because Jim just would not let me do it. And eventually, after about a couple hours, I was able to pull her out. And it was miserable for him. And he cried and cried and cried and cried. And it just so happened, I knew where Jim came from. And I called her up and I said, look, man, this is what's going on. This is what happened. And I fear that he's going to die because he's going to mourn himself to death. And I mean, it's just until she came to get him, he cried every day, all day. And you got to be mindful about that. Because if you lose a mate, then you got to watch that other bird. Because you can't just put another one with it. Because certain types of birds, especially the green cheeks, if they lose a mate and you try to put another one with them, they will kill that bird instantly. Within a few hours, that bird will be dead. The parrotlets are the same way. The macaws sometimes. The Amazons, definitely. Quakers, no doubt. So you got to be careful about what you're doing when you're pairing them up. And if you lose one and you try to pair it up again, you got to give it time to mourn. And you got to do just like you would do if it's a bird that's never been paired up before. You got to do the spacing. Because if not, you're going to end up losing them both. And it just really sucks to lose an animal. Because I love animals. So you just got to be mindful.